Madagascar's newly minted military ruler has just thrown the entire West into chaos with a move no one dared predict. In a recent BBC interview, he stunned the hosts by flat-out rejecting the use of French, the island's so-called official tongue, and demanded to speak in Malagasy instead. "Why should I not speak my own language?" he fired back before adding, "I refuse to honor the tongue of our colonizers." And in that fiery defiance, he didn't just spurn a language, he shattered a symbol of submission. Picture that, my friends. Barely a week into power, this 51-year-old colonel has lit a blaze that could consume the remnants of France's influence. And believe me, it's rattling nerves from the Élysée Palace to the corridors of the United Nations, where the relics of old empires are gasping for air. Now let me draw the scene for you. Because this isn't your run-of-the-mill power grab. This is an uprising cloaked in uniform, forged in the restless spirit of Madagascar's youth. It erupted not with tanks at midnight, but with thousands of Gen Z voices rising in the heart of Antananarivo. These aren't the protests of old. These are the digital warriors of a new era. Teenagers and 20-somethings wielding phones instead of rifles chanting Malahalo, enough is enough, against the blackouts that swallowed their nights, the empty taps that mocked their thirst, and the leaders who sold dreams but delivered despair to nearly 3/4 of our 30 million brothers and sisters. President Andry Rajoelina, the slick businessman turned strongman who grabbed power in 2009 and rigged his way back in 2018, couldn't stand the storm. When the uprising hit, he vanished like mist at sunrise, mumbling about safety abroad. The same man who left his people starving in the dark, while his mansions glowed and his bank accounts swelled. And when things fell apart, guess who airlifted him out? France, his old patron, rushing its favorite puppet onto a military jet while preaching about democracy from Paris. The irony burns hotter than the Malagasy sun. France's marionette may have fled, but the strings snapped with him. Rising from the dust came Colonel Michael Randrianarivalo, a quiet storm from the sun-baked south, born in Androy in 1974. A soldier's soldier, not a palace pet. Former governor, battle-hardened commander, head of CAPSAT, the elite unit that once lifted Rajoelina up but now tore his empire down. When protests flooded Antananarivo on October 11th, Randrianarivalo didn't crush them. He marched beside them, shields up, protecting the youth his predecessor betrayed. By Monday, Rajoelina was gone, Parliament had impeached him, and the colonel stood before the vacant palace, declaring, "CAPSAT is taking over." The Constitutional Court, that relic of colonial justice, rubber-stamped his rise the next day. 3 days later, he was sworn in as president amid roaring crowds and trembling trumpets, vowing before the nation, "I will fully, completely, and justly fulfill these high responsibilities." Few knew his story, but those who did called him simple, tough, and fiercely patriotic. Once jailed for denouncing Rajoelina's corruption, he emerged unbroken, a blade tempered by fire. And just hours before the takeover, when the BBC asked him to answer in French, he smiled, paused, and spoke in Malagasy. "Why can't I speak my language?" he said, rejecting the colonizer's tongue with quiet thunder. In that moment, he didn't just speak for himself, he spoke for every Malagasy who refused to bow again. This isn't just symbolism, my brothers and sisters, it's an earthquake. France can feel the ground trembling beneath its last African jewel. Remember the Sahel? Once their playground, now a wall of resistance. And Madagascar, their prized outpost in the Indian Ocean since 1895, could be slipping through their fingers next. To understand Colonel Randrianarivalo's fire, you have to trace the scars of our history. France didn't just colonize Madagascar, they drained its spirit. From the 1600s, their ships prowled our coasts, trading bodies like cargo, building posts at Fort Dauphin and Antongil Bay. By 1882 they were carving up our lands for vanilla, cloves, and gold. Queen Ranavalona I, defiant, feared, called mad by her enemies, resisted with iron resolve. She saw clearly, letting them in meant losing everything. Yet in 1895, after brutal wars, France stormed Antananarivo, exiled Queen Ranavalona III, and chained us as a colony. For 63 years they looted our soil and our souls, forced labor on railways, forests razed, and 90,000 slaughtered in the silenced uprising of 1947. Even after independence in 1960, their grip stayed tight. French advisors dictated policy, the CFA franc strangled our economy, and soldiers guarded Paris's interests. Their chosen son, Andry Rajoelina, came to power with French blessings, keeping Madagascar tethered while poverty devoured 3/4 of our people and our riches fed foreign labs. Randrianarivalo has seen enough. By speaking Malagasy before the world, pledging a 2-year transition and sidelining the corrupt elite, he's doing more than breaking protocol, he's breaking chains. France is panicking. Macron's outrage sounds empty over the roar of departing jets. Losing Madagascar would mean losing their last foothold in the Indian Ocean. Another brick falling from a crumbling empire. And Antananarivo isn't blazing this trail alone. Look at Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, the 37-year-old symbol of African defiance. He took power in 2022, expelled French troops, ended Operation Barkhane, reclaimed his nation's gold and uranium, and tore up colonial contracts. His schools are now free, his robes woven in Faso Dan Fani, his voice pure Sankara reborn. In 2025, Traoré stood at the Kremlin parade beside Putin, joining the new Sahel alliance with Mali and Niger, forming their own bloc beyond ECOWAS. He's faced coup attempts, Western criticism and media smears, yet the youth still chant his name. His reforms are biting, his GDP is rising. Antananarivo mirrors that same fire. Both men forged in prison, both defying the old order, both lifting native tongues and pride. One from the Sahel sands, one from Madagascar's red soil, two flames in the same storm. And as whispers grow of Russian footprints in the Sahel, the question hangs heavy in the air. Will Capsat follow their lead? Look south to Niger, where General Abdourahmane Tiani's junta, born from the July 2023 coup, slammed France's door shut with thunder. In weeks, they tore up 5 defense pacts dating back to 1977, expelled Ambassador Sylvainit, and ordered 1,500 French troops out by year's end. Uranium mines once feeding Europe's grid? Reclaimed. Somair nationalized, Imuraran licenses scrapped. No more cooperation. No more colonial charity disguised as partnership. Niger's uranium now belongs to Niger. Paris called it chaos. Niamey called it freedom. Tiani's team accused France of scheming with ECOWAS to invade, while rallies erupted with Russian flags and chants for sovereignty. U.S. forces lingered for show, but by late 2024, even they were gone, replaced by the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. French NGOs were banned, G5 Sahel abandoned. The new focus? Energy independence, food security, and regional trade built on self-reliance, not foreign pity. Meanwhile, Mali's Assimi Goïta, the soldier-scholar who seized power in 2020, has written his own script of defiance. He expelled French troops in 2022, kicked out the UN a year later, and replaced Operation Barkhane with Russian trainers. ECOWAS sanctions couldn't break him. Lithium exports and homegrown industries kept Mali's economy climbing. Even a French-backed coup plot in August 2025 failed. Critics cry repression, but Goïta calls it redemption, the price of reclaiming sovereignty. This isn't coincidence, my kin, it's a continental awakening. A new breed of African leaders rising not as tyrants but as guardians of dignity. They're cutting the colonial umbilical cord, pivoting east and demanding respect, not permission. Wagner trainers in Mali, AS patrols in Niamey, BRICS doors opening to Ethiopia and Egypt. Africa is turning multipolar and Paris is out of breath. No more IMF strings, no more lectures dressed as aid. And then there's Madagascar. Antananarivo's rise wasn't a coup from the barracks. It was the cry of a generation. When blackouts and water shortages ignited Gen Z protests on September 25, he didn't silence them, he joined them. By October 12, Capsat had switched sides, the government collapsed, and the youth declared a new dawn. Since 2029 coups have shaken the continent. Mali twice, Guinea, Sudan, Chad, Burkina Faso twice, Niger, Gabon, and now Madagascar. Not chaos, correction. Each one sparked by leaders who sold out their people for Western applause. But now the pattern is clear. When power forgets its purpose, soldiers step in and the streets roar their approval. The message echoes from Niamey to Antananarivo. Serve your people or lose your throne. The age of puppets is ending. Africa is writing its own script, and this time no one else holds the pen. History carves its lessons deep. Democracy without results is tyranny wearing perfume. By rejecting French, Colonel Antananarivo isn't just choosing a language, he's closing the chapter of colonial obedience. The day isn't far when Malagasy replaces French in classrooms, courts, and newsrooms, just as Traoré buried it in Burkina Faso. Yes, the road ahead bristles with obstacles, AU sanctions, UN disapproval, and legal uncertainty, but hope glows through the fog. Antananarivo's 2-year roadmap promises a hybrid government and elections by 2027. Not flawless but far cleaner than Rajolina's decay. This wasn't a coup, it was reclamation, of pride, of voice, of land once looted by foreign hands. So what comes next? Stand tall, my Pan-African family. Champion Randrianarivalo's rebirth, Traoré's defiance, Tchiani's resolve, Goita's endurance. Boycott the colonizers' brands. Elevate African tongues. Forge alliances that mirror us. France trembles because its empire is fading, and rightly so. Let it crumble. The new dawn rises not with Western permission, but with African hands shaping the sun. Panazava ho etra, light for all nations. The storm is not our fear, it is our rhythm. Across the ocean, Randrianarivalo's oath thunders like a warning. Madagascar's revolution sends shockwaves through Africa's palaces of decay. To rulers like Nassing, Biya, and Museveni, the message couldn't be sharper. Serve your people or be swept aside. No more Parisian escapes while your citizens starve in the dark. Africa's youth, phones in hand and fury in their veins, have found their voice. One spark of neglect now ignites revolutions. Armored convoys and fake 90% victories can't silence the unemployed millions pounding at the gates. From the highlands of Madagascar to the deserts of Niger, the motherland is awakening. Panazava ho etra, light for every nation. The future belongs to those who serve, not those who sell.